We're now hours away from the first major singles final of 2024 as Aryna Sabalenka and Qinwen Zheng square off for the Aussie Open title. Both women will be trying to follow in the footsteps of their respective trailblazing countrywomen. Sabalenka is bidding to become the first woman to defend her very first slam title since Victoria Azarenka did it 11 years ago here at the Aussie Open, and then should Qinwen Zheng raise the Daphne Akers Trophy, she'd be the first Chinese woman to win a major singles trophy since Li Na did it here 10 years ago in 2014. I will break down this matchup before giving my ultimate prediction of who I think will raise the Daphne Akers Trophy. Hi, my name is Christian Basnight and welcome back to my channel. First, talking about the head-to-head between these two young ladies, Sabalenka leads at 1-0, and they only met once, which was at the 2023 US Open quarterfinal, which Sabalenka took relatively comfortably with a score of 6-1, 6-4. Sabalenka has spent nearly 5 hours less on court than Zheng has because of how dominant the Belarusian has been throughout the tournament. She has yet to drop a set. Zheng's average opponent's ranking was 81 and Sabalenka's is higher at 128. I did put an asterisk there because she faced Amanda Anisimova, who was ranked around 442, and that obviously skewed the average. So I think that Sabalenka's quality of opponents in terms of rankings has been tough for her. Talking about Sabalenka's road to the final and a bit about her play on the way there, she has now reached back-to-back slam finals, of course reaching that US Open final last year, and she steamrolled through to the semifinal. Nobody had won more than 5 games against her up until that point. The semifinal against Coco Gauff, the biggest test she's faced thus far, it was the US Open finals rematch, so a lot was on the line for that one, and I feel like that match delivered overall. I was very pleased with the quality of that match and thought it was better, far better than the US Open final, in fact, in terms of quality. Sabalenka played well, started well. She outplayed Gauff at the beginning in the first set and went up 5-2 and had a set point when she served for it, but she just could not close. And then she started missing some easier volleys and put away approach shots, and a lot of that was due to the pressure that Gauff imposed with her superior movement. And then too, Coco stepped up her game from the baseline and started challenging Sabalenka even from her forehand, Gauff's forehand wing. Now Gauff went up a break in that first set, going up 6-5 when serving for it 30-love in that game. And really this was the first time in the entire tournament that Sabalenka's back was against the wall. I was worried about how Sabalenka would encounter this adversity because she hadn't been tested in the entire tournament, but she did wonderful. She won the last 11 of 13 points in that set, and she dominated the tiebreaker 7-2. I was very, very impressed by Sabalenka's calmness and resolve throughout that entire match. Even in the second set, she was down 4-3, 30-love when she was serving, and she served excellent serves, played a flawless game to get herself out of trouble, and then kind of ran away with the match at the end. Sabalenka's higher first serve percentage made a huge difference in that match. She hit 76% of her first serves in, and she won 71% of points off that first serve. That will be important, very important against Zheng tonight, who can take advantage of some more second serve looks from Aryna's racket. From the start of the tournament, Sabalenka has really just been the player to beat. She's been on point in all of her matches, and she does have streaky periods where her game is off, and I do think that, if she was a little bit more opportunistic, the scoreline against Gauff could have been a little bit more one-sided in her favor. Nonetheless, I think it was actually good that she was tested in that first set to give her a bit of taste of what adversity feels like in this tournament. This really feels like a more newer, mature Sabalenka 2.0, might I add, who just looks like the world's best player, who is ready to take that next step and cement herself as a Hall of Famer player like she deserves to be. Now, moving on, talking about Qinwen's road to the final, she did not face a seed this entire tournament, and in fact, she didn't face a player ranked inside the top 50 until now. She's facing Sabalenka, which is unbelievable. In fact, her highest ranked opponent was 54th ranked Katie Bolter, who's a solid player, but still, that's a honestly dream path to the final. Zheng has dropped a few sets en route to this championship match, and she was tested the most against her compatriot Yafeng Wang in the third round. She survived that 10-8 in the deciding third set tiebreak. Yes, the players she faced weren't seeded, of course, but they were in-form opponents. Anna Kalinskaya was playing excellent tennis this entire Aussie swing, and Diana Yastremska was on fire. She came through qualifying to make the semifinals, and she played a decent semifinal herself, but Zheng was just too good in the end. I also think Qinwen has upped her return level this tournament as well. Just a simple action of making more returns does a world bit of good for her. And I think, especially against a solid server like Yastremska, she did well to get herself into a lot of those baseline rallies when Yastremska was serving those big bombs. So kudos to her for making that improvement. Zheng has also been solid on serve. In fact, she leads the tournament with 48 aces, but she's also hit the most double faults with 35. Sabalenka, meanwhile, has hit 24 aces to 10 double faults, but I think her ace count and obviously double fault count would be higher if she was on court as long as Zheng has been throughout this fortnight. Talking about the US Open final match, as it's their only previous match and it was relatively recent and on hard court, I think it could be a great thing to analyze this match. Sabalenka utterly overpowered Zheng in the earlier part of that encounter. She took advantage of the sometimes shaky Zheng forehand, which I think can be a big asset for her in this Aussie Open final, trying to look for more forehand to forehand exchanges, because even though Zheng has improved her shot tolerance off that forehand, it definitely struggles up against immense pressure like Sabalenka can impose. The serve was solid from Sabalenka. Zheng did not return well, and I think a lot of that was due to her very interesting deep return position. She returned so far back from the baseline, and I think that ultimately hurt her. She was not able to get as much on her return, and usually you take that deeper return approach if you're trying to make more returns, but it didn't even make a difference. Zheng was missing a lot of returns. Sabalenka's serve, yes, had a lot of power, but she's like, Zheng did improve her court positioning as the match wore on, and I think that was the big reason why she made the second set much more competitive than the first. She was able to step up and dictate off her ground strokes, which paid off, and she really took it to Sabalenka and used her forehand as a weapon. Now, another huge factor in this matchup was Zheng's poor first serve percentage. Qinwen only made 41% of first serves in, which is not going to cut it against Sabalenka, who will make her pay for the second serve looks. Now, talking about Zheng's edge that she has in this matchup, I think playing Sabalenka at the US Open will help her tremendously and will benefit her more than it would benefit Aryna. She has a better understanding of the Sabalenka pace, which can be very daunting and very tough to figure out for players who face her for the first time. It's a lot of heaviness, or just a lot coming at you. She will not be as intimidated as she was perhaps in New York to start this match, and I think she definitely got used to it in the second set. Another thing to consider too, Qinwen's coach Pere Riba also coached against Sabalenka in that US Open final, helping golf, coaching her to her first major title, singles title. Pere will surely have a lot of key insights into how to get Sabalenka uncomfortable, perhaps telling Zheng to mix in some loopier forehand shots like Goff did, vary the pace and height of shot to really get Sabalenka out of her comfort zone. I think Pere will be an important aspect here in this matchup as well. On the serve aspects of things, Zheng obviously, as I keep mentioning, needs to maintain a high first serve percentage, and I think she does need to gamble a little bit more on her second serve, because Coco was oftentimes just throwing in weaker second serves in the middle of the box, and obviously you think that that's better than just double faulting, but it honestly gave off the same results because Sabalenka was teeing off one by one, just dominating those second serve returns. I think she got to go for more. Now, on that flip side, Zheng also needs to be cognizant of keeping the double fault count low. You know, early on in that Yastremska match especially, she threw in a lot of double faults, which Diana was able to take advantage of to get their early break. Definitely, she's got to find that happy balance of having a solid second serve, but also, you know, not going for too much and just giving double faults willy-nilly. As far as the actual serve goes, I think that Zheng needs to try to jam Sabalenka and serve a lot to the body of the Belarusian. Coco did a great job of this, jamming her. I think Sabalenka is much more dangerous when she's stretched a little bit out wide and is able to kind of tee off on her return. She's done a tremendous job of that. However, she's kind of strapped and trapped. That's weird. Anyways, she's trapped and is not able to tee off as well if the ball's coming into her, and she's definitely has missed a lot more returns whenever her opponents have done a solid job of getting that serve into her hip or into her body. I think Qinwen has the edge as far as composure by far. Not by far, but has a considerable edge, I think, as far as the composure goes. Really, she's not the type of player to wear her heart on her sleeve. She obviously will pump herself up and give her commands whenever she does well. However, she doesn't give opponents much whenever she does make a lot of mistakes. And I think that will be a huge asset for her here, she's maintaining that very even kill composure and not getting too hard on herself. Qinwen will be the big underdog in this match, despite being the 12th seed, not that far off from Aryna, and I think this can actually aid her as there's probably less pressure and expectation on her. Yes, she is playing for China and trying to end the slam drought. It's not really that big of a drought, but in that 10-year slam drought of not having a Chinese major singles champion, aside from that, like I keep mentioning, I think that Zheng knows that she's not as expected to win this as Sabalenka, who is the defending champion, a major champion in herself, former world #1. So I think she can use that to her advantage and come out and play more of a free match once the nerves, of course, the inevitable nerves of playing in her first slam final settle. And then a final smaller point that Zheng can take solace in, I think that she will be a considerable crowd favorite in this matchup. I don't think that it will be as extreme as we saw at the US Open, where the crowd was cheering for Sabalenka's double fault. However, we are in the Grand Slam of the Asia Pacific, and Qinwen's fans, Chinese fans, have come out, and I feel they'll definitely come out and give their support here in this match. And I think that those Chinese fans will kind of get the greater crowd involved and back Qinwen in this final, and that can be a big asset for her in the tight moments. Now, looking at Aryna's advantage here in this match, which there's obviously a lot, but narrowing it down to a few, I feel that Zheng is very similar to Goff. And on the flip side too, Yastremska is also similar to Sabalenka in that they're both big servers and have a lot of pace from the ground in their shots. Focusing on the Zheng Goff comparison, Zheng also has a very extreme forehand grip, which can break down under significant pressure. Qinwen's backhand, obviously like Goff's, is very solid, and she's also a great athlete, able to track down a lot of balls and make Sabalenka play that one extra shot. Not quite as good of a mover as Coco, but still, I think that aspect of being able to make that one extra shot will get her some crucial points here in the end. Qinwen's serve is good, of course, as I mentioned, with the high ace count, but she is double fault prone, another thing that I mentioned too, which can make a big difference in this match. Perhaps the biggest edge for Sabalenka is her experience of playing in a major final before. This will be her third, and she has very recent experience. She played in 2 slam finals in 2023, most recently, of course, at the US Open. So I think that she will be able to navigate the nerves and pressure of playing in on such a big stage. Zheng, she only won her first title last year in July. That was a smaller 250 in Palermo, and then she notched it up a little bit with a 500 in Zhengzhou, and she made the finals in Zhuhai. But the first slam final, that's a big step up in class. So one can only wonder how Qinwen will handle this occasion. And then to round out the advantages, Sabalenka has much more power in her arsenal compared to Zheng. Zheng is a better player than what we saw in New York. So is Sabalenka though too. I think that she's incorporated a lot of edgy aspects to her game, a lot more touch too, which I think she needs to incorporate here too to throw Zheng off. And then also having more of a willingness to come into the net whenever she senses opponents are in trouble. That would be a big difference maker in this match. Sabalenka needs to find her way up to the net like she did against Goff. For my final prediction, I will have Sabalenka take this match in 3 sets. Now, a lot of people think that Sabalenka will just run away with the match, and that's exactly why I think that she won't. She'll be the big favorite here in this final, facing Zheng, who is playing in her first slam final, and she obviously did not have nearly as hard of a road, I think, in terms of seeded opponent seeds as Sabalenka did. Zheng, as we all know, didn't have the most difficult road to the final, and she did not play pushovers by any stretch. Her opponents were all quality, but I still think that Sabalenka will be an even higher step up in class. That's just undeniable. I favor her to have the better start, as she has been in this position 3 times, as I mentioned, and is less likely to have those intense slam final jitters early on in this match. Zheng, though, needs to take advantage of the inevitable period where Sabalenka starts spraying more errors, and I picture the Chinese woman using the crowd and the momentum shift to kind of run away with it in the end, which is why I do think it's important that Sabalenka remains composed and tries to close this match out in straight sets. Now, on the other hand, I do think that this could be reminiscent of the 2022 Roland Garros final, where it was an absolute beatdown. Goff was outplayed tremendously by Iga Swiatek. I can definitely see that happening here, or I could see the 2023 US Open final happening where Sabalenka starts strong and then Goff kind of uses the crowd and momentum shift to take it home in the end. However, I don't think the latter will happen because Sabalenka will be able to learn from that experience and will know what to do in those moments to kind of bring her game back together. And I think that's ultimately why I have her taking this in the end. I could see an edgy 6-3, 7-6 for Sabalenka, but I'm going to say 6-3, 4-6, 6-4. I think that this match will come down to who's the better player in the end, and it's undoubtedly Sabalenka. Aryna, it's time for you to go ahead and win your second major title. Do you agree with me that Sabalenka will defend her Aussie Open title, or will Zheng rise to the occasion and claim China its first major title in a decade? Leave your picks in the comment section below, and make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post my women's final recap video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon after this final.